Hello, and welcome to the guide on how to use the data collection template you have been asked to complete for the next 14 days. This guide will show you step by step exactly what to fill in, how to fill it in, and what to do once it has been completed. The template has been designed to be as clear, self-explanatory, and simple to complete as possible with clear instructions throughout. As you can see, the template is a standard Microsoft Excel workbook separated into different tabs. You can navigate through the different tabs by clicking on them at the bottom of the screen as normal. The tabs you will see on opening the workbook for the first time are Instructions, color-coded in black, Staff Details, color-coded in red, and then three tabs, Definitions, Activity Reference Table, and Complexity and Dependency, all color-coded in blue. The blue tabs are for reference purposes only, and we will come back to them later in the video. As you will be using the template in an observation capacity, we will cover off later in the video how to use the template for this purpose and what to look for in your observations. Moving then to the first tab, Instructions. Note that this section is for information purposes only. That is, no entry or recording is required within this tab, and so feel free to pause the video and read through this if you wish. The first section provides you with a narrative surrounding the purpose of the template and why you're being asked to complete it for the next 14 days. The second section, Data Capture, explains exactly where and what you will need to record, as well as where you can find further definitions or explanations which may be required later on. The third section, Procedure for Completion, provides a step-by-step approach to filling in the template and what to do once you have completed each section. You may refer back to this section at any time as a reminder, or alternatively come back and watch this video again. We will be covering off everything in step-by-step detail in this video. At this point, depending on the security setting of your software, you may or may not see an instruction to deal with a security warning. This normally shows just underneath the ribbon and looks like this. The warning is nothing to be concerned about. It is simply Excel notifying you that the template contains some automated functionality and is asking you to enable it. In order for the template to work, you must enable the content by clicking the Enable Content button. Once clicked, the yellow warning bar will disappear. If this warning does not appear for you, then that's fine. At this stage, save a copy of the file to a location that you can come back to over the course of the next 14 days. The next stage in setting up the template for use is to complete your personal details in the Staff Details tab. Select the Staff Details tab, highlighted in red. Here you will see two sections. On the left-hand side there are several fields for you to enter your personal details, and on the right-hand side there is a table headed Form Submission Summary. We'll come back to that section later in the video. Firstly, click on the box next to Name and type in your full name. Next, you need to select the trust at which you work. To do this, click on the empty box and then click the little arrow symbol that appears to the right. A drop-down will appear listing the trusts participating in this exercise. Scroll up or down until you find your trust and click it to select. Continue in this fashion for the remaining sections, selecting from the drop-down list your service line, role and professional group. Within the role definition field, choose from either clinical 100%, meaning that contractually all of your time is typically spent in clinical activity, clinical/management, meaning that you have a dual responsibility of clinical work and management time, or clinical/admin, meaning that you have dual responsibility of clinical and administrative duties. Next, select your current agenda for change banding from the band drop-down. The final detail you will need to complete is your current contracted whole-time equivalency, or WTE value. You will need to manually enter this rather than select from a drop-down list, and it must be entered as a decimal of a standard 37.5-hour week. So, for example, if you are contracted to work 37.5 hours per week, simply enter a number 1 into the box. If you work 30 hours per week, this would equate to 0.8. If you need any assistance with this, ask your supervisor or manager, who will be able to help. Once you've filled in all of the boxes, the setup of the template is complete and you're ready to move on. You will only need to fill in this sheet once, so once you have completed it, press the Continue button at the bottom of the page. When you do this, you will see that 14 new tabs, all color-coded in green, will appear. These are the daily forms that you will be completing over the next 14 days. Once again, now is a good time to save the file. Now you are all ready to begin recording. Select the tab labelled Day 1. The data collection sheet takes the form of a table in which the activities you undertake are recorded. Every activity is recorded on a single row with the unique details of that activity alongside. First things first, select the shift you are working on this day by selecting the box next to Shift at the top of the page. As on the Staff Details page, a drop-down will appear listing all of the standard shifts. Choose the most appropriate one. If the shift you are scheduled to work does not appear in the list, select Other. It's important that you submit a data capture form for every day in the 14-day period, so if you're not scheduled to work on this day, choose Not Working this day. The table of activities in the form can then be left blank for any days on which you are not working. The next thing to enter is the date, which is entered in the box at the top of the sheet by typing in the date in the format day/month/year. Once the shift and date details have been completed, the form is ready for use. If you want to, you can go ahead and enter in your shifts and dates for the remaining 13 days. They will then be waiting for you when it comes to using the sheet for that day. Note the blue button at the top of the form which says Submit Form. It's important that you only submit the sheet once, so do not press this button until you have finished all your recording for that day. So, onto the main table. As you progress through your day's work, each activity undertaken should be recorded as an entry in the table. You should record from left to right, starting with the time of the contact. This should be entered in the format hour:/minutes and in 24-hour format. So, for instance, if the activity took place at 10:14 in the morning, you should enter 10:14. If it took place at 3:56 in the afternoon, you should enter 15:56. Next up, select the activity type from the drop-down box, choosing the most appropriate type of activity: direct, indirect, or associated. If you're unsure which option to choose, please refer to the blue tab labelled Definitions, which will provide a full explanation for each option. Once you have chosen the activity type, you must then choose the activity category from the next drop-down list. Note that the options you can choose from here will be dependent on the activity type you have selected. If you do not see the desired activity category in this list, select a different activity type. You can refer to the Activity Reference table at any time to see the full breakdown of activity categories and how these fit into the different activity types. Following on from the activity category, enter the activity subcategory from the drop-down list. The options to choose from will again be related to the activity category chosen in the previous box. For direct activities, there are 3 different contact types that must be chosen. For each, select the most appropriate option from the drop-down list. For contact type 1, this relates to whether the contact is initial, that is, the first time you are seeing this patient, or if this is follow-up contact. Next, contact type 2 relates to the mode of the contact, again selecting from the drop-down list the most appropriate option. You can choose from face-to-face contact, telephone contact, or other media, for instance if the contact was carried out over some form of media such as Skype. Next, contact type 3 relates to how you saw the patient. Select the appropriate option from the drop-down list. You can choose from one-to-one, joint, where the visit being carried out was done with a colleague from your or another service, or group, where the contact took place with more than one individual at the same time. If you are using the mental health version of the template, choose in the next column whether the activity being recorded is being undertaken as part of your care coordinator role. Simply choose yes or no. Note that if you are using the physical health version of the template, the column simply won't be there. Next, select the contact location, selecting from the drop-down list where the activity took place. The options available cover most outcomes. However, if you cannot see an appropriate location in the list, select Other. Next, enter the amount of travel time between leaving any previous location and arriving at the location where the activity took place. This should be in the format of the number of minutes taken. If there was no travel, please enter 0. Try to be as accurate as possible and not to round up or down. Once this is done, you must enter the complexity of the activity, selecting from the drop-down list. If you're unsure which option to choose, please refer to the blue tab labelled Complexity and Dependency Levels, which will explain the meaning of each option. The final detail you will need to enter is the activity duration. You must enter the amount of time the activity lasted for in minutes. Again, try to be as accurate as possible and not to round up or down. Note that if you choose to enter a direct activity, all fields must be completed for the activity. However, if you choose to enter an indirect or associated activity, non-applicable cells will shade out. You only need to enter details for the cells left unshaded. And that's it. Each activity undertaken throughout the day should be recorded in exactly the same way and as a new row in the table. Note that there is a category within the list for completion of this form. If you need to, you can select this category to account for time spent completing the data capture form. As you progress through the day, and assuming you're working from your laptop, continue to save the file as you go to save on any potential loss of information should something go wrong. Once you have completed the recording for the day, the last step is to go to the top of the page and press the blue Submit Form button. Once you have pressed it, the box directly to the right will turn green and the text will change to Submitted. This indicates that your form has been successfully submitted and that the day's recording is complete. Note that when you submit the form, a pop-up message may warn you that a program is trying to send an email on your behalf. If this does occur, simply click Allow in order to submit your form. If you'd like to be sure that everything is sent OK, you'll be able to see exactly what has been submitted by looking in your Email Sent folder. This process should then be repeated in exactly the same way for the next 13 days, using the tabs labelled Day 2 to Day 14. At any point, you can check which of your 14 forms you have submitted by reviewing the Form Submission Summary table on the Staff Details tab. Once the 14-day exercise is complete, make sure that all 14 forms have been successfully submitted by checking this summary. Remember that at any time you can refer back to the instructions or review the blue information tabs for reference. If you have any questions or are having any difficulties completing the template, speak with your dedicated lead for your trust. Instructions for observers. The following section is only applicable to those of you who will be observing others. As an observer, recording the information works in exactly the same way for you as it would for anybody completing the study for themselves. However, there are a few additional tasks that you will need to complete. In the Observer version of the template, shown here in the Staff Details tab, there is an additional box that states Observer Information. In this box, enter your own full name. Then you can go ahead and complete the remaining boxes, as explained earlier in this video, for the person you are observing. Once you've done this, click Continue at the bottom of the page. As an observer, when you click Continue, unlike the self-study template covered previously, only 2 new tabs will appear, colour-coded in green. The first tab will be called Observation Study. This is where you will record the information as before. You will need to complete a row for each activity in exactly the same way as described earlier in this video. However, there is one key difference when you are observing. On the right of the table is a column for comments. This is here for you to add any additional comments you feel are relevant when observing the clinician's day. You may add as many or as few comments as you like, so don't feel that you have to fill in a comment for every single activity observed. However, this provides an opportunity to note any pertinent comments you may have on what you are observing. It goes without saying that on looking at the day's work from a new perspective or through a fresh pair of eyes, you may see or hear things that are of interest, the problems that get in the way, the challenges faced, or even the frustrations that people feel. All of these things are useful to note, as they will help paint the full picture of how the day transpired and could even help to drive positive changes to occur on the back of the exercise. An example of this may be, I feel like the targets we work to aren't appropriate, or it would be better if we were allocated visits based on location as well as need. Anything that you feel is relevant to the day's work that would be useful to record, note it down. It's important that the comments are not specifically about the individual's performance. This is not an appraisal of their personal abilities. More so, a general observation of how the job is done and what things cause lost time or inefficiency throughout the day. Note that you do not need to make notes against any specific activity unless you need to. Comments can be recorded in any row of the template. Once you have completed the study for the whole day's observation, simply click Submit Form, the blue box at the top of the page, as mentioned earlier in this video. Once the form is submitted, the box directly to the right will turn green and you can move on. In addition to the day's observation, you will also find a green tab labelled Diary Study. To complete this, you will need to obtain the physical diary of the clinician you are observing. On the Diary Study tab, you will find 12 boxes, one for each week of a 12-week period. In the clinician's physical diary, count backwards in time 12 weeks from the day of observation and count the number of contacts recorded in that week. Of course, different people manage their personal diaries in different ways, and so a level of interpretation and common sense will be required here. However, what you should be able to identify is how many contacts were recorded in the diaries for week 1, week 2, week 3, and so on, up until the week before your observation. Note these numbers down in the boxes provided. Once you have the number of contacts recorded for each of the 12 weeks, click the blue Submit Form button at the top right of the page. Once the form is submitted, the box will go green and the diary study will be complete. Once you have submitted both the observation study and the diary study, the day's observation will be complete. As an observer, you will be required to complete a separate template for each of the clinicians you observe. That is, use a new, fresh version of the template for your next observation. That's all there is. If you have any further issues, please see the FAQs or speak to the dedicated lead for your trust. Thanks for watching, and good luck.